Welcome to EntreNetwork, brought to you by Revision Marketing Group. This podcast is meant to serve as an entrepreneurial knowledge base of wisdom and practical tips in marketing, branding, and technology to help grow your business effectively.
Ieshea, thank you so much for coming on a EntreNetwork podcast. So I'll be the guest or the host. Ieshea is the guest. So kind of tell us about yourself. What made you get into the industry that you're currently in?
Okay. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here. I'm so very excited. I'm very encouraged by everything that I see that you guys are doing, especially in this space. Who I am, Ieshea Hollins, and how I got in this space. Well, I guess as a child, I've always been fascinated with how things work, right? And so I grew up during a time where the computers they cost so much, right? So to see how they work or see how they tick, you didn't necessarily want to get caught taking them apart to figure that out, right? There was a little backlash that was going to come with that. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I still did, though, was just still figuring out how to get in and out of things, right? So my dad used to tell me as a child, he said, you need to be a legalized hacker. And this is before this was even a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so one thing he knew was I had a gift getting in and out of things. And number two, he wanted me to do it legally. It was like, nah, I'm not getting you out of jail for it, right? So, but just technology has always just been a passion of mine, just one of many passions. I won't say that it's my only passion, but it's one of many. And it just allowed me, just kind of go in this direction.
Awesome. Okay, so you was telling me about yourself and how you came into the industry, it being a passion of yours. So what did you do before starting the business?
Great question. So I guess if I go back to, I'm a graduate of the University of Louisiana at Monroe, so I got my undergrad in computer information systems with a minor in computer science. So I actually started in computer science as a programmer. So I always loved everything about programming. It was the starting from nothing and growing it into something. Just seeing when I started, there was emptiness, and then something was doing something. I had made something come to life. So I always loved that aspect of it, right? Then I was actually good at coding. It was like a problem solving, you're always plugging this to this. And I wasn't the biggest fan of finding my own errors, right?
Yeah.
You can get stuck for hours just looking for a comma or a missing period. But I loved it. But I also recognized that I was too chatty of a person to, just be stuck, in a corner, in the dark, just coding all the time. So I enjoyed it, but not that much. Yeah. I went on after graduation, though. I did start at CenturyLink, which was CenturyTel, I think, at the time. Graduated into CenturyLink, which is now Lumen.
CenturyLink is now Lumen?
CenturyLink is now Lumen.
Wow.
Yes.
That is to me.
Yeah, this is a recent transition, but it's been almost a year now, I think. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Because I remember them gobbling up businesses like it was nothing. Because I moved to Monroe from New Orleans in 2005. Yeah. So just growing up in Monroe and then seeing CenturyLink as this big mega company, so to speak, and then moving off to Natchitoches to pursue a CIS degree, and then still seeing CenturyLink, and I forgot the CEO's title, but acquisition and merger after acquisition, it was like, wow. Yes. In Monroe.
That's right. So Glenn Post, he did a phenomenal job, and you are correct. And one of the things that I actually worked on was we were on several of the acquisition part or teams. Because as we went from, because it was, and you think small town, how in the world are they buying up, Embark. There were some prior or whatever, but then there was Embark to Quest to buy R3, and then again there were still things that were sprinkled in there, right? And so, but it was changing how we did business, how they did business, right? And so it was one of the things that kind of spearheaded where I am today. We would hire technology students, or actually the thing was that there are no IT jobs in Louisiana. So we would have students that would go to school, and then they always believed they had to go to way to get good jobs or a job in tech, right? And so at the time, our chief technology officer, which was Bill Bradley, he reached out and he said, how about we start an initiative where we actively recruit for IT? And so we began to leverage relationships with the universities, going out, actively participating in the job fairs, letting them know who CenturyLink was, or CenturyTel was, the IT jobs that were available, and how to come on. Mm-hmm. So then we began to hire, but then they would work for about a year or two, and then they'd still leave, you know? So in our investigation as to where the disconnect was between what they were looking for versus what they had found, because again, tech goes in so many different directions, but we put everything in one bucket. We call everything technology, and we walk off, right?
IT.
Yeah.
It's
in the bucket. And so for me, I was en route down to Baton Rouge. One of my universities was Southern University, and so I was on my way down to Baton Rouge, and I'd been down there a couple of times, and there was a case that was in the news at the time. They had infiltrated a ring of pedophiles. I don't know if you guys want that on the show or not, but this is my truth.
Yeah.
And so, but there was this one individual in the case who was adamant that he was innocent. And so this was like the second or third time coming through, the Baton Rouge area, and I'm hearing about this one particular guy. And I began to think to myself, well, we love the innocent until proven guilty, but really sometimes they're already guilty, right? And when you start talking about technology and in that particular arena, and this was back in 2008, right? So who was he supposed to talk to? Who does he tell his attorney, hey, hire, right? Mm-hmm. There was no Direnzic at the time. Hire them to help us prep my case, because I'm telling you it wasn't me, So I began to do my research to say, okay, so who is that liaison between the police, the attorneys? Who preps the attorneys? Who helps to have that technology look again, like that second look at the information? Did we follow the chain of custody? Were these things followed? And so when I saw that I didn't exist, I created me. So that's how Direnzic Technology came to be. We got started assisting with digital forensic cases to help with just educating on where things are with cases.
Wow. No, that's huge. As far as like being with CenturyLink, how has that experience shaped you into owning the business and being able to be successful within the business?
Great question. At CenturyLink, I was like I said, I started out as a programmer, and then I promoted into project management, and then from there, program management. I did a lot of promotion, but what I became known as was the issues resolution person. She was the red project queen, right? If a project was on fire, if it was behind, if there was for any reason it was red, right? Mm-hmm. Call Ieshea. And I've always been that person. I see the bigger picture. I'm a huge visionary, and once I can see it, and I can also see problems from a mile away, right? Unless they're my own problems, then I don't. Those blindside me.
Same for us.
That's usually how it works too, right? And so with that, knowing how, working in corporate, knowing how to talk to the right teams, where to go for funding, how to make sure that your teams are happy. So there was a lot of experience that I got, there because they gave me the freedom, right? So I wasn't very micromanaged. That's one thing I definitely have to give them. They did not, and that was really good for me, because different people thrive in different arenas. Mm-hmm. You can stifle some people, and especially in tech, you got to allow us to be creative because not all answers are cookie cutter answers. They can't be, right? How do you stop a criminal if you're not allowed to think a little outside the box? Because if you think that criminal is going to stay in that box, you got another thing coming. So, and that was the thing with us. It was, it was project management. We were growing like crazy. They had put me on several initiatives, which between the IT recruiting, and then there was changing our IT PMO office, right? Because we were doing project management a different kind of way. Embark was doing it their way. Quest was doing it their way. They were, CMMC level 3s, and we're going CM and what? We don't know what that, we don't know that language. And I was placed on these different initiatives because they knew I could get it done, So, and I appreciated that too, but the more we did it, the more, how sometimes you just get uncomfortable. It was great, but it was telecom. And not to be offensive, but telecom is boring. And so it was like, though I loved all the interaction and different things that I was doing, even when I began to do the recruiting was kind of a breath of fresh air because I'm a personable person. Like I like the interaction, right? So as I began to start my business, and I stayed at CenturyLink for a bit while I kicked off my business or whatever. There was no conflict of interest there, at the time. They weren't doing cybersecurity at the time. It allowed me to learn. It allowed me to go into my arena while still being able to be effective and successful in corporate. So when you came out, it wasn't just, it was just somebody that rolled over and decided they want to start a business. However, there are people who can roll over and just start a business. I think we give too many restrictions on how a person can find their path. Just found mine a little bit different. I've had several people we've gone into arguments or conversations, the degree versus just the certification route, the work experience versus I have a passion or this is a family-owned business. And so therefore I knew how, to kind of structure and kind of go out. My father is an entrepreneur. He's owned his own business basically my whole life, and I knew that I would be too. When I started working at CenturyLink, I said I would be there for 2 years as an apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. 10 years later, I was still there. So I mistimed it by just a little. But you would think, I'm still first generation, So he had an accounting firm, and I'm over here in technology. So there was still ways that I had to figure out, how do I get clients? Who do I talk to? How do I structure things? Like, am I a sole proprietor or am I an LLC? Why do I LLC and you didn't LLC, mm-hmm. So there were so many questions that I still had to champion on my own. But I knew that entrepreneurship was my way. I knew that.
Yeah. Wow. So when you first made the jump or the transition into being going into Direnzic full time, what made you decide to niche down on just one specific or a couple service offerings? And what were those service offerings? Because you said forensic.
Digital forensics.
Yeah, digital forensics, because you've seen a need for it.
Yes.
So was that the primary service?
Yes. So when I got started, digital forensics was my our initial service offerings, and literally that's what we were out to do. We were here to help. That's been my motto. I'm here to help, right? And but it was to help prepare attorneys and their cases and their clients, to either go to court or to fight whatever, legal battle they had to fight from a technology arena, right? We looked at the data. We either helped pull data from PCs, right? So it was very important to me that if you saw me working on a computer, that you weren't confused that I was break fix, right? So what's break fix? That we fix computers. That you could bring it to me and tell me, hey, my computer won't boot up, and it didn't mean that we didn't get those, right? We got those, right? Because again, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to champion right now. It's still, when you think IT or technology, can you fix it? My internet's running slow. Can you speed it up? My printer's not talking to my computer. Can you? These are traditional norms for what we think IT is. And so when I got started, it was very important that we communicated. Okay, that's not what we do. Don't mind helping, but it's not what we do.
Yeah.
Then we went on tour, right, with my organization, because we were doing pitch competitions throughout Louisiana, just to try to, because I knew I wanted to make this a company and I wanted to step out on my own. I was ready, or so I thought. And I did pitch competitions, one right here in Shreveport. My very first one was right here. That's right, in Shreveport. And when I did the pitch competition, towards the end, because we actually made it into one of the finalists, and then we made it again to another one of the final rounds. And after I did my presentation, I had a couple of the doctors that were there that heard me present. And this was at the time that high-tech HIPAA was just getting going. So you had so many organizations or medical facilities, is what I'm trying to say, that were being hit by the fines, right? Because they couldn't roll it out because they didn't understand it, right? Mm-hmm. So he, this particular doctor, he pulled me to the side. He had some colleagues with him, and he said, you're handling IT or the digital forensics from the reactive standpoint. So something has already happened. Something bad has already happened, and you're coming in to assist there. You're assisting with cleanup. Mm-hmm. If you got into the cybersecurity space and got in front of it, he said, you would make a killing. You would clean up, because so many of us don't know. And if we had a roadmap to follow, and I was like, well, okay. So cybersecurity was born, right? So we were now digital forensic cybersecurity, but I also did my math. I did my homework. So I began to look around, and I thought, he made a very good point. And I'm also not one that's real big on always just coming behind something. I don't just want to clean things up. I would like to be in front of, right? Except I was figuring out, I was trailblazing, right? Where were the cybersecurity digital forensic shops? Mm-hmm. They weren't there. So again, I said, let me add that as a service offering. So I began to work with the universities. Dr. Barnett, he's going to be excited to hear his name, or he's going to be awful mad to hear it, one way or the other. But no, he was one of the, he's been one of my mentors. He was my professor while I was in college, the University of Louisiana at Monroe, Dr. Berry. Good relationship with my university. So I went back, we started having those conversations and started developing and designing what services that we wanted to offer to the community. So it was important to me that I niche digital forensic cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. What I found in my niche, though, was nobody knew what digital forensics was, and they certainly didn't know what cybersecurity was, because we're still talking around 2009, 2010. So it's not mainstream yet, but it's coming. Yeah. And as I said, I've always been one to do what? See a problem coming a mile away. So I felt like the crier from those fables. it's gonna rain. And everybody's like,
No, it's not.
no, it's not.
Wait, with that, as far as like the numbers, so with the numbers, the dates and everything, 2008, the financial crisis, because that's kind of like the time that you went full time with the business. How did you make that jump, and how did that kind of impact your decision?
It was scary. A lot of prayer, a lot of conversations. What I had, though, was I had been working with the LSBDC. I had been having those conversations. I had some savings that I had saved up. And I was looking at, okay, one thing that was, integrity is big for me. So regardless of what was going on around me, CenturyLink had started to look towards cybersecurity. And so for me, I never wanted there to be said that, I was going from one to the other. So really, you're right, the crisis was there. And I tell people, I said, I may have been going through just a smidge of postpartum depression because I opted to start full time in my business. I think my daughter was maybe 6 months old. Not maybe, my daughter was 6 months old.
Ooh, yeah.
And I decided, okay, but I knew it was the right time. It was the right time for me. A lot of prayer, a lot of looking, a lot of just seeing where things were going. Mm-hmm. And so I took my savings and with what I knew, and I just jumped out there and got started.
Yeah. Wow. So going back to the niching down and the importance of it. Yeah. So you were speaking about just the relationships that you was able to gather from years of experience and then education and stuff like that. As far as niching down into forensics and then or digital forensics and
yes.
then don't tell me digital forensics and cybersecurity. Yes. After that, people didn't know what it was. So how did you educate people on it or broaden the awareness to your company that you offered the services?
Another really good question. So we went on an education tour, basically. I had already joined I knew the importance of networking. I joined the chambers. We would do lunch and learns where I would just give training to the communities. The LSBDC, they began to offer cybersecurity trainings, and I would provide cybersecurity training for the LSBDCs. And each one of these, they were all free. Mm-hmm. So it was great for the people. But that was my thing. It became just, I knew I needed to get the awareness out. You needed to know what was coming. Regardless, I foresaw a lot of really, the biggest thing was small businesses. And that's when I started my business. My target was small businesses, right? Because they were the target. You were small enough that you didn't necessarily feel like a threat, so therefore you became the ideal threat. Mm-hmm. And then as long as I can infiltrate you, I can infiltrate bigger, which, as we know, we tell the story over and over again about Target. That's how Target got breached. They didn't attack big old Target. Mm-hmm. They went to the HVAC or the air conditioner company that Target was using, and they infiltrated that way. So my goal was work with small businesses because they need me the most. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They needed me the most, but they hadn't put me in their budget, not even remotely, right? And it was during a time, as you just said, why would I put that there when I have all these other things that I need to pay for, that I need to do. So again, my give back or my volunteerism that was my thing, education. But those that would come to my class, I would terrify them, right? Because when you don't know what you don't know, and then somebody's telling you all the things that can happen, it's like, whoa, fear overload. I love your style. I love the way you teach. Matter of fact, can you teach me anything else besides this?
Ignorance is bliss.
There you go. Yeah. So then I was literally asked, like, can you teach anything else in technology? and initially I said no. Because again, my niche was so important to me. And I was being asked about a lot of things. Can you build my websites? Well, I can, but no, right? Yeah. Until you're in business for a while and you're trying to keep your lights on, right? And nobody knows what you do. And they're coming to you for all the wrong things, right? And you're sending them away. And at one point, do you stop and say, okay, I have to save myself. I'm drowning here. I'm giving away a lot of really good information. And I say today, if I could go backwards, and I can't, none of us can, I probably would have stayed with CenturyLink just a little bit longer and took on the volunteerism, because obviously I was passionate about it. I didn't mind, but I didn't have a base anymore. I didn't know where I was going to get paid again, and that's the thing about entrepreneurship. I can say the word, but that's the thing about being an entrepreneur. You leave the known for the very unknown, and it's unknown for any length of time. It can change tomorrow, and it could change 5 years from now, and it's understanding how long do I tread water? How long do I tell people no before I finally say, you know what, I do that, right? And so my training, because like I said, I teach people the way I like to learn. I'm very tactile. I love to touch it. Please don't read to me. And please don't tell me to read a whole bunch of stuff and come back. I can do that, but it doesn't. I needed to make sense. That's my thing, making it make sense. That was a plug. You'll get it later. But that is my thing, And so when they asked, I was like, okay, fine. What do you need, right? And so then we got into the Microsoft products. Well, we were already Microsoft partners. So it was a fit. We could teach Microsoft Excel and Word and PowerPoint and all of those things. Cybersecurity awareness seminars, we start hosting those and doing conferences every year. We were blessed or fortunate to see that, October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that's what we did. We made those our initiatives to get out and get the word out during those conferences. And then, so will you do this website? Well, one website turned into another website, right? And then will you do my social media as well? Because I don't know. And you got to keep in mind, this is 2010, 13, 14. So again, whereas Instagram wasn't what Instagram is today, Facebook was a little different. Doing ads was different. So yes, we can help. We can help with that. We actually even got into, for a little while, some break fix stuff. You just couldn't keep saying no.
You got to keep the lights on.
You got to keep those lights on. And so then I started finding that more and more I was getting away from the true passion, but I was still doing things that I was good at. Still good at identifying the problem. My project management background, planning, budgeting, executions, managing, it all worked, So, and then the other thing was we started looking at government contracts. And even with those, when you had those set-asides, well, they didn't always just set aside for, or the language did not say digital forensics, cybersecurity, because they didn't know that wasn't the language. They knew they had a problem. And so therefore, can you help me with my problem? So we morphed and we changed Direnzic Technology from digital forensic cybersecurity to issues management solutions. That's what we offer, your technology issues. So again, Don't bring me every problem you have. Give me your tech problems and allow us the opportunity. We could find what softwares you were needing, where your holes were. We were plugging your holes. And so we started figuring out. And so what we're doing is strategic planning. We're doing your strategic plans, helping you to identify. And so at the time, it seemed like, oh, gosh, I've gotten off track, right? And you'll go home some nights and you'll second guess yourself and you're trying to figure out, how did I get this far away from where I started? But God has a plan for everything. And so as I continued and I'm making a name for myself, and I haven't stepped away from cybersecurity, it's just now we're adding strategic things, right? Mm-hmm. And more of the program manager and me stepping up. And I'm doing more collaborations because that's what I started to find. As opposed to being out here on my own, I start collaborating with other IT companies, right? Mm-hmm. So you're an IT shop, tell me what you do, right? So now when I have someone call me and say, do you do a website? I know to say, hey, I don't. But Revision does, mm-hmm. right? Or Sydney does. I don't, but my partner does, So it's different things so we started doing those and the collaborations. And when you're working on federal contracts, collaborations are really good. Yeah. The more people at the table, right? Then the more secure they feel than you walked in as a small shop saying, I can handle this. And it doesn't mean that you can't handle it. Right? I think in a lot of ways we play into numbers no, because it depends on what you need, right? I can handle that. So I had a lot of contractors. I had contractors that worked for me, and I work with various partners, and it allowed me to start building my book of business. Mm-hmm. But then I ran into another problem, right? That problem became my contractors and my partners. Every time the phone rung, they knew they were going to make money from me. Mm-hmm. But I felt like the lone tiger in the wilderness. I have to stalk the prey, chase down the prey, kill the prey, and drag it back. Mm. And before I could even eat off of it, I'm back hunting again. But everybody else is eating off my work. That became very tiresome. And then the closer, the more work I did, then I started finding even those relationships that I had, when I would call them, they kept raising their rates on me. Well, you're not the one. So then I found myself going backwards. So how much of this can I now keep in house? Because I will once again find myself trying to figure out how to turn those lights back on, even though I'm clear. And that became the confusion. I started having conversations with people. And, oh my goodness, this is $1 million company. And I'm going, it is, but not yet. Yeah. So I don't know if I've gotten all off track or if this is what you wanted or
no,
what.
This is exactly what I wanted because it's raw and it's you. And
yeah.
You're given a lot of tips into like the process of niching down the importance of it, and also insight into government contracting, and federal government contracting. Wow. No, that was really descriptive as far as like you being a person that goes after contracts and then having to feed contractors in a sense, and then just the overall cycle. So how have you found yourself stretched thin, so to speak? So coming away from all of the things that you're passionate about, and everything that you have experienced with like program and project management and programming and stuff like that, to taking on all of these additional service offerings, for you, how have you, what was like one of the low points where you knew that you had to make a change?
Oh, great question. Oh my gosh. COVID. It was before COVID. I don't want to. That's a great question, Sydney. I felt it coming. It had been coming for a while. Yeah. I'd been overwhelmed, but I was managing. And I think as entrepreneurs, we all can identify with that. I'm managing.
it's going.
That's it. People see you and they think, oh, wow, she's still open. Because there was those that counted me out before I ever got started. Matter of fact, it was the ones who said, oh, you'll be back. You know what I'm saying? Literally, when I left, I had management say, oh, you'll be back. And it's like, wow. Yeah, it's like,
okay.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, There were those that because they wanted me to come back, or they would, you would either get stiffed on projects, you would, you're always working to prove yourself, rewriting your resume 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to make sure that people knew, this is who I am. I was good enough for a corporation to hire me and give me the salary, right? 'Cause we're not going to throw numbers. But if you can make that salary for them, then why are you no longer any good just because you started your own shop? No, I'm worth that and more out here, right? So there were those, you go home, you get stiffed on people you start seeing a different side. People, you do the work and they violate contracts. So it was always different pieces of you you were always going home, which is a little bit more wounded, right? Yeah. But I believed because, again, I'm a visionary and I could see. The thing about me was God let me know a while ago. You know how sometimes you're looking for the door, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking for the way in. I'm looking for the way. I'm looking for who's gonna, and in the meantime, while I'm waiting on, God to open the door, I'll just shout in the hallway, the little means that they got. And it was like God said to me, why are you waiting on a door? Be the door. Mm-hmm. So I recognized that my organization, I would put food on people's tables. I was the one who needed to make sure that we were solid enough because I could give back to my community. Not because we're trying to build some $1 billion conglomerate. I will gladly build $1 billion conglomerate. But that's not, the whole thing was, how do we make a change? How do we be the difference, the change that we talk about, right? So, but for me, it became very apparent that people will take advantage of certain things, right? Because I wasn't the traditional, when I walked in rooms, I'm not the man at the table. And so there's a thing about women and men. Our approach is a bit different. Both great approaches. You need them both. And I say that because, we talk about the lack of women in technology, and that's what you need both. Not that the women should overrun the men. Just let us at the table. You'll be impressed by the things we have to offer, So, but to answer your question, by the time we got to COVID, like I said, I had 12 contractors at the time. And we had people in the office, we had people in the field, and we had already landed some of the contracts. So you can't go backwards on contracts. They were already inked, right? We already had an amount that we had established. Mm-hmm. And so COVID hit, and my contracts, I had already been having some problems out of my contractors. So that's another topic. We could have fun with that one. And my contractors began to tell me, we need hazard pay, because they weren't calling it pandemic pay yet. If you want me to go on site, I need more money. But I couldn't go back because they were state contract. You can't go back and say, hey, due to a pandemic, can you give me more money? We wish we could, but you can't. And in hindsight, maybe I could have. I don't know. We were all brand new to a pandemic, but I knew I didn't want to let my client down. My name was very important to me, and I knew we needed to get the job done. And so therefore, now I'm paying what little, because I already was only bringing in X amount per contract, and you took that. And it was something about them taking it, Sydney, it woke me up, and I said, I can't keep going like this. Yeah. I can't do this. And so the thing that the pandemic did allow, I had to let them all go, right? Letting them all go meant I took on everything. I put all of the hats that I worked 10 years to have to take off, and I didn't have to be everything. I went back in the closet and I started pulling them back out. You guys are very familiar with the stress of my, trying to look for help with hats. Like, okay, I could do my own website, but again, that's the collaboration or, the beauty of the pandemic is that was not a collaboration. But that was, can you handle the website part while I focus over here? And so it made me feel like, and one of the mental hurdles that I'm dealing with right now is I physically know, every part of my being knows we're a 10 plus year old company, but we're operating almost like a startup. So that's a shock to your system, right? Because it's like, whoa, I thought we did this already. I thought I was beyond this. You know what I'm saying? But with any good thing, sometimes going back to the beginning, it has afforded me the opportunity. This is not a sad story. It has afforded me the opportunity to get back to what I loved and what I started it for anyway. I went and I started accepting all these gigs and jobs, and I'm busy and I'm working and blah, 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 and I'm exhausted. But very little was I handling. In other words, if I was going to do this, then why did I leave where I was? Why did I leave corporate? I said I was bored. Not that I was bored, but I knew there was more in me. And I had to get back to my more. And so it afforded me the opportunity to say, get back to cybersecurity, get back to the digital, get back to helping, get back to where we started. And so with the pandemic, we put our kids online, and we put everybody online, not just our kids. We said, everybody go home and get on your, some didn't even have VPNs. We are in Louisiana, so they didn't recognize that we had so many households that were pulling off of rural networks, so they didn't have the capabilities to be able to allow them to work from home. They didn't understand the stresses that they brought into the households. And so the more we niched and the more we got there, the more I looked at all of the strategic planning that I was doing. The entire time I had turned into a chief information security officer. I was doing the work the whole time. I just wasn't selling it to you or anybody, right? I was selling it to you in bits and pieces. And so it became apparent, get rid of all the excess and get back to something. Give me a package I can use, right? And so we began to package our services. Don't look at my website and see a million services. See one service that has a million different benefits
for that one specific target.
One specific target.
Wow.
Yeah. And sometimes, you don't know what you don't know. It takes time. It takes allowing yourself to be real and making some of the mistakes. We are very hard on ourselves, especially entrepreneurs. We feel like, oh, I should have known. And there's times that you just celebrate when there's a pause. And I fought the pause. I fought it tooth and nail. I kept working throughout COVID. But who was I working with? Because So now you're forcing your services down people's throat. I was. They were having the same pandemic struggles as I was. I don't even know whether or not my business is going to be in business next week. I don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. And you're selling me security? I can't talk to you right now, right? That I can't focus. However, when I finally embraced, all of us need a minute. But I'm watching, and not just I'm watching outside my home, I'm watching inside my home. Because my daughter is now, she's online and she's downloading apps that I know normal Ieshea would have said, no, ma'am, you can't do that. But we're struggling for normalcy. We're struggling to allow, okay, how do we have interactions and how do we stay connected and how do we, and so with all of that, and then I'm getting phone calls from other clients, and I had one client, and it just touches your heart. I took my phone from my child, and she threatened to kill herself. What do I do? And that's not the only phone call I was getting. I was starting to get calls that had me go, whoa. So I'm talking to people, and I'm giving back, and the whole time it's a service. It's a service, but I'm thinking, I'm just talking to my friends, I'm just talking to my clients, and I'm like, okay, let's get you the help you need. And so I'm pointing you in different directions. Let's get you the help you need. And so I begin to say, no, let's talk about internet safety. Let's talk about what this is doing, all of this overexposure. Let's talk about technology addiction. Let's have the conversations. Let's put something in place. Let me stop redirecting you. And so out of COVID for me has come, we're going to give you internet safety, not just for your children, for your seniors who were being bombarded with, hey, grandma, and the grandmother can't come out and see you. Due to COVID, I ran out of money. And can you wire me X amount of money? These are real cases.
Yeah.
Real things. And the grandparents are thinking, it's a pandemic. I gotta help, and I can't see you, right? I can't touch you, but I can be there for you. And so we had elders that were losing money, or seniors that were losing money and being tricked. We had, oh my goodness, the kids trafficking. That went crazy. It was just so many of them just coming up missing. And then with the suicide rate, it spiked. Yeah. And so those are all of the issues that I said, allowing myself to take a step back. I got back to, on the private side, this is what we're going to offer the people. And for technology, for the businesses, we are your chief information security officer. Stop. You don't have to hunt them down anymore. We'll give you your service. We will do your assessments, your CMMC levels, your NIST assessments. We will do them for you. You don't have to hunt that down. And we will provide your organization the training it needs. And don't call us for anything else. Or everything else. I got a partner for that. Yep. And so, take that other statement back. You can call us because, again, I understand sometimes you don't know where to go. And, we're happy. We're more than happy to help. But I love collaboration. I love to be able to say, hey, I got another guy for that.
I know someone who can do that. No, that's incredible because it goes back to the programmer in you trying to solve those problems, because I have that too, where it's like, if I don't know the answer to it, it's like I need to do something to add value, right? Because it came to me and they trusted me to be a solution. I can't be that, but I know someone who can, or I can research and recommend someone who can, or partner with someone if I see the need for it. So no, that's incredible. Yeah. Incredible. Back to problem solving, back to the passions.
Back to the basics, yes.
So with 3 resources that helped you as a business over your course of 10 years, what are the 3 biggest resources you would think, or you think helped you as far as the success of your business?
Free resources.
And this can be organizations, individuals, pretty much anything. People like your daughter for motivation, any source of inspiration that gave you an extra push into it, or a hater that was just like, hey, you're not going to make it. And that kind of pushed you and made you into the person you are, or made your business into the business that it is.
Well, I love the breakdown now that opened it way wide, right? Nobody can be in business alone. We think that we can, or we'll say that we can, but everybody needs somebody, right? You need support, you need help, and you definitely need motivation. Definitely, as far as encouragement, and my why is definitely my family. I have a daughter, I have a son as well, so they are my whys, And but you're right. It was important for me to allow my daughter to see that no matter what life throws at you, you can shake back and you can make it. So, as a woman in a male-dominated field, right, you'll find a lot of hurdles. A lot of hurdles will come your way. But that's life. Life hurdles come. How do you manage them? How do you crawl over them? And in some cases, be humble enough to crawl under them. Not always you have to go over the top. Humbly go underneath, but don't let it stop you. Do not stop. And I'll tell anybody that, do not stop, but definitely my women. It doesn't matter. There's things, I got some stories, that I could tell. But it won't, not on your show. But, you feel like you're being singled out, or that you can't handle certain things. And, it's understanding, just keep pushing. If this was your baby, this was your passion, the same way you wouldn't give up on your literal baby, don't give up. But understanding when, sometimes pivoting, you don't know when to pivot. And sometimes you'll miss an opportunity. Think about the whole Blockbuster that didn't want to go the red box way and didn't want to go again, there's nothing wrong with staying relevant and in the time. Mm-hmm. Resources. I'll say I was a client of the LSPDC. There's the pluses, the minuses, the goods, the bads, but I won't take that away. The LSPDC was a wonderful resource, just wonderful. Reach out, talk to them. There's so much training that they offer. It's recognizing, what trainings that they have. A beautiful connection was you guys. Like being able to work with your team, like you guys, motivation. Okay, Michaela, like it's been amazing to be able to say that I have you guys. Like you asked a question, that's my truth. Like really, you guys were amazing, especially throughout this time. So I would definitely, and this is not even a shameless plug. This is genuinely, being able to say, through the LSPDC, I was able to be connected, with you guys. And, just as a hardworking, small, growing firm, you guys are doing an amazing job, and I applaud you. I really do.
Thank you. And that applause goes to Michaela. She's over here. She's just simply incredible.
She is
simply incredible. Over the year, it's about to be a year, but over the year that she's been here, just so much growth in personal development, and then just bonding with our clients. It's simply incredible.
That's right. That's right.
Crying in the corner over here.
When? Somebody call the ambulance. Yeah, it's but I love the fact that you recognize when you have a good resource, you know what I'm saying? And that oftentimes that is what happened. We'll have a good resource and fail to, and I don't think you don't have that problem at all. I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, she's talking about, no, you guys, from what I've seen, and I'm on the outside, looking in, but I do love the dynamic. I love the the freedom that you give her, the trusting her, but at the same time being at the helm, because there's something about being at the helm and being able to handle your team.
Yeah, people. So I'm still super new to this, but as far as like the vision that I see for us as a team, it's super big. So I have to always open, I always have to give trust to the people because people are just simply incredible. I'm finding out anyway. And even if they are not incredible, you learn so much from the individual that the trade-off is worth it.
It is.
And you have to open your hands for growth. At least I'm finding out. So I trust my team with a lot of stuff. But Michaela specifically, because she has just developed a appetite for. She's super aggressive. She's super aggressive, and she makes my aggressiveness, as far as like being an entrepreneur, make a little more sense. Strategically, right? So she has these questions, and it's like I didn't think about that because I'm trying to go so freaking fast, and then we have that ability to slow down, and it's good to have that dynamic. But for you, what would you tell your 15-year-old self with all of this knowledge? And that's probably a tough one to. But what would you tell your 15-year-old self as far as like entrepreneurship and the possibilities that was out there?
So you have hit me with some really good ones today. Yeah. Sucker punch. 15-year-old me. Oh, the things that I would tell 15-year-old me. Believe in yourself. Regardless of what it looks like, there's a lot of, I'm not a personality type that you're going to see that I question. But then there's the daily battles that you always have. People misunderstand what they see as strength, and then they attack it. They continue to attack. Embracing who I am. Growing up, I was, my personality in particular was attacked a lot, right? Because I'm very verbal. I need things to make sense. That's why, again, this time, not a shameless plug. But the reason for making it make sense is so important because I like for things to make sense to me. But when I would ask for things to let it make sense, I was treated like I was just challenging everything. I was challenging authority. I was challenging leadership. I was challenging. And I never grasped the challenging part. I never could understand what people meant, right? Because I'm a different type of person. When I ask for feedback, people are afraid to give it to me because we're in a society where everybody wants to be lied to, right? Tell me only what
I want to hear. There's no growth in it, though.
There's absolutely no growth. There's critique me, give me feedback, but don't be ugly to me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's a way in which you can deliver feedback to people that you don't have to leave them in a puddle crying somewhere, right? When you're done with them. And then therefore you could thump your chest. Haven't I done good, right? No, there's strategy, but we're each and every one of us different. And some of us, the way our minds work is different. And so I'm a person that when you talk at me, but once the light bulb comes on, you can never turn that light bulb off. And once the light bulb comes on for me, then I'm able to articulate for probably everybody in the room that they didn't get it. It's as I'm now in my 40s, I see that was a gift. It was a skill set that got challenged so much, I tried to hush it. And so my 15-year-old self, I would tell, don't be silenced. Not silent, silenced. Because that's what I feel that I was. I was made to feel that it wasn't okay to be in those rooms or to fight my way into those rooms. And fighting to be where I am, I find myself one of a few, minority women that are doing what I'm doing. But how close we got to me not sitting in this chair, only me and God know, because there are days, that you don't want this in your life. I tell people it's hard in these streets.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You have people that make it look easy, and that's why I say I love this platform. So often we fail. We go from I started my own business to my business is either successful or it's closed, and we miss the story
in between.
Mm-hmm. And so therefore, if you lost your business, you feel like a super failure because nobody's having the conversation. I failed, or I had to reboot. You asked about a hater. I had a client, if we have time for this. I had a client, and at the time, financially, we were struggling, right? My family and me. And so when I went to go meet with this client, every piece of me said, don't do this. I knew this was a bad contract. Monetarily, I couldn't walk away from the contract. I needed the money. And people smell desperation in the water, right? And not that I went there desperate. I just went there with guards that I had worked to build up. I put them down. And so I'm working very, very hard on, and she's throwing different things at me that are outside of my wheelhouse. But again, she's trying to tell me my job and making me sound almost inadequate if I don't do the extra, right? So I'm taking on extra and I'm doing things that are outside, and every time I got to her, she would find these little tweaks with the contract, right? I'm gonna sign it, I need you to change this or that. But since you're here, and she really was, she was a ways away. I had to drive relatively far to get to her. So since I was there, I would go ahead and do the work, and okay, I'll make that tweak to your contract, right? So we reached a point where she needed some equipment to come in. I had to order the equipment, and we had to wait. So I hadn't been billing her, and just kind of going. So I let her know, okay, well, your equipment won't be in for about 3 months. Let's go ahead and just settle up where we were. And then once the equipment and I had already ordered the equipment too. Yeah. And all of a sudden she stopped communicating. And so I'm still not being ugly, but again, all the hats. So not only am I the installer and the orderer and the this and the that and the contract person, but now I'm the payroll. Yeah, I'm payroll. And so I'm reaching out and whatnot, and just going about what we have to do, as entrepreneurs. And then one day in the mail, I received a certified letter from her. And so since it was certified and it came right, it was right on time, right? I was like, whoo, she paid. Because we were right there at the holidays. And I was like, okay, great. So I rip it open, and it is a letter on the inside. Mm-hmm. And so I start reading this letter, and I'm in my office, and I start hyperventilating. I can't breathe. And so I had to leave. I had to go get some breath, some air. And so my husband at the time, because somebody used the term, I fell in love with it. My husband came running. God. came running behind me. He was like, what's going on? Are you okay? And in this letter, she had wrote up that she wasn't going to pay me, and that I was incompetent, and that I had just totally jacked up her entire office. I had done all this super really bad work, and if I didn't know what I was doing, then I should have just said so, and that she had hired other people, and they came in, they had said that I had done just a horrible, horrible job, and I'm not paying you. But then she went on. She went one step way too far, which was, and if you reach out to me again, if you call me again, I'm going to call the police, because I'm going to label this as harassment. So use this letter as, my notice to you that you're harassing me if you reach out to me anymore after this. Sydney, so breathe, Ieshea, breathe. It's like, I can't. Like, Jesus. And I cried, and it's not easy to make me cry. I'm not an easy crier, even though since you guys have met me, I wonder. Anyway, but I'm not a crier. Stop. So I'm not. But I did. And it took me a while. It caught me off guard because I started second guessing everything. And I had to think about, the work that I was doing. And I know that I had done a good job. But there was also the part where you were challenging me to do things that were outside of my scope. But I was just doing that for you. So either way, there was a couple of ways I could have went from that. And I went and I told him I need a minute. I had to go think. And then I came back and I looked at him and I said, for the next 2 months. Now, I don't know where I got the number from. I don't know where I found the faith to do it and why he had the faith to wait me out. I said, for 2 months, I won't touch another client. If they're not already my client, I'm not signing another one. And I said, because no other client will ever do this to me again. And for 2 months, I went in my office every day and I worked on contracts. I worked on clauses. I worked on stuff, but at the end of it, Sydney, it should have already been done. You know what I'm saying? But it took something that ugly to make me go there. But other people, they could have taken something like that, shut down, cried. Again, but I fought myself. I fought her too. But you were ducking a bill. That's all you were doing was ducking a bill. But these are the stories. These are the challenges you have when you come out here on your own. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was being polite to somebody, being kind to somebody. And then they want to know why when you go into business, everybody want to immediately label you as, oh, you changed. I had to change. I couldn't afford to stay who I was because who I was roadkill for you. And in order to rise above, I had to resurrect from that roadkill experience, go into a cocoon, and come out something completely different.
Gee whiz. Yeah. Ieshea. Jesus. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's so much value that you added to me as an individual first and foremost. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the EntreNetwork podcast.
You're very welcome. As I said, my motto, whether it's Direnzic or not, I'm here to help. I understand that. I am here because I am supposed to help.
Indeed. And what last piece of wisdom would you provide the audience?
Oh, my goodness. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. To be an entrepreneur it's not an easy road. But what you'll find in life, it's not easy to be a wife or a husband. It's not easy to be a parent. So if we went through life taking the easy road, we would never get anywhere, right? So if you have a passion and a dream, just know you can do it. But find a village, right? Mm-hmm. And your right now village is not necessarily your village. Mm-hmm. You got to understand that. And it doesn't take away from mom and dad and aunt and uncle. They're going to love you. They're going to love you regardless. But make your business, okay? Who you need in your corner, yes, great, you can support me, but find those people. Find your accountability partners, right? I swear by an accountability group now. I do. Find mentors. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. and don't have to be the biggest voice in the room, right? Sometimes you learn a lot just by going in and being accessible. I tell people to, and volunteer. We have so many people, if I ain't getting paid for it, I ain't doing it.
Time is money.
Time is money, And honestly, some things you can't be paid enough to learn. Some things, volunteerism lets you in a room that if you had stood your ground and waited to get paid, you were never going to sit at that table.
Mm-hmm. Or get the experience.
Mm-hmm. So, resources are available. Find your resources, find your community, but believe in you, believe in your dream, and just get started. Done or started is better than perfect. Stop trying to perfect it. Mm-hmm. Almost every entrepreneur that has sat in this seat or that has been interviewed or that has talked, go back, go find a bunch of podcasts, and you're going to find most entrepreneurs tell you, I started my business here and I pivoted.
Constant pivots.
It's a constant pivot. Mm-hmm. So stop sitting in your room writing. Don't not make your business plan. But my plan ain't perfect, and so I can't stop. I can't start. Start.
Yep.
And then pivot.
It changes.
It's going to change.
Always, especially with a pandemic. So.
Right. Because we're not on the other side of the pandemic. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Ieshea.
Oh, cool.
Thank you for coming on the EntreNetwork podcast. We will be with you guys next week.
Yes.